Our final segment in today's Homes episode shines a light on our piece on Roanoke's Build Smart Institute. Alicia Smith and Michelle Ramaker from F&S Building Innovations are here with us today to share more about this program and why it's a critical component to our local trade industry. Hi, ladies. Thanks so much for joining us today.
Thank you.
Really appreciate it. Thank you. So it's actually pretty fortuitous that this Homes episode follows quickly on the heels of our education episode. I think that those two are pretty well aligned, as the Build Smart Institute is a terrific way for students of all ages who are interested in the trade industry, from construction workers and electricians to plumbers, carpenters, and more. These are so incredibly important in our community in general, but of course to our community as a whole, and perhaps even more so in the face of evolving technology. It also provides an opportunity for professional development for local construction companies, which I really think is great. We're going to get into that in just a few minutes. But I was curious, Alicia, if you want to start us off on, tell us more about the Build Smart Institute. Why did F&S see the need to bring this program into our community?
Well, anyone has anything to do with the construction industry knows that there's just a desperate need. Everywhere you turn, you see hiring signs, help wanted signs. They're constantly looking for carpenters and helpers and tradespeople. That's because construction's never going away. You know, there are certain industries that kind of evolve and change and things fade out and things fade in. But as far as building the buildings or remodeling buildings, that's never going anywhere. There's always going to be that need. F&S Building Innovations is no different. We've struggled over the years to fill all the open positions that we have to do the work and build the buildings. So several years ago, our owner, Gary Fazell, started talking about a construction school. And at the time, you know, we're like, maybe. But as the years went on, it became very evident that it was a desperate need, not just for F&S, but for the whole country, the whole industry. So that's kind of where the idea for Build Smart was born. It was developed in a way to actually provide hands-on training, not just people who learn from a book and then teach from a book, but people who have been there, have done that. They have the anecdotes to prove it.
Better than YouTube videos, I think, too.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. So Build Smart is there to introduce young folks to the construction industry, to train folks who are looking for a new career, but also to provide that advanced training. If you've been in the construction industry for 15 or 20 years and you're looking to advance or just hone your skills, we can provide that training as well.
It's exciting to learn something new no matter what industry you're in.
Right.
So, yeah.
Absolutely.
And we'll come back to technology in a minute, because I really think that's fascinating in terms of how you both have to evolve and work with the people that you have on your team and how they're using that sort of technology. And so who is this program for exactly? I mean, you've mentioned students and potential companies, but who really needs to learn more about this program?
I would say everyone. So we operate in several different lanes. We operate for kids that are in high school that want to be introduced to construction. How do you know if construction is for you if you're never introduced to it?
Sure.
If your schools aren't offering some sort of program that lets you see if you're naturally dexterous or not. Is this something that fits you? Then if you want to be a tradesman, if you want to work with a construction company, we offer all those trainings. If you want to get credentialing, meaning certificates for the construction industry, we offer those. Or if you've been in the construction industry, like Alicia said, for 50 years and you just want to move up or you want to help other people, we can offer you certificates for those.
What a great pipeline. And so I would hope that most of the graduates stick around to the area, right, and really join our companies and our community to build up. So that's really cool. But also you have the opportunity to take that knowledge and travel with it too, right?
Well, and that's one thing we do is we help place students. So they're being placed in the Roanoke area. We're not placing them in Charlottesville or Lynchburg. They're being placed right here.
Yeah, that's fantastic. And so in thinking about why it's important for students, you really hit it on the head. I love that dexterity that you mentioned, talking about if you need to just sort of test the waters and I'm interested, but I don't know how to get started. Like, what a cool thing. And so I was curious about why it's important for students, in addition to what you've already stated.
So it's life skills. I think that
Good point.
Being able to repair a hole in your wall and not have to call somebody for a small hole, but you can repair that drywall yourself, that's huge.
I think I need to take the classes now.
We have had a lot of ladies and DIYers,
Cool.
flippers that are starting to take the class because they want to be able to do things for themselves and not have to go out and hire
That's really
someone.
cool. I haven't even thought about it that way, but how neat.
Yeah.
And well, actually, so for the community at large, that sort of answers that next question that I had. But how about, again, why is it important for the community as a whole to be aware of this program?
Another thing that I guess you maybe don't think of but became very abundant, research and development took place for about 2 years before Build Smart opening. And one of the things we found was that it's really at the middle school level where children start to determine what their life path might be and what their career options might be. So part of what Build Smart does is provide some exploratory opportunities for those middle school level, whether it's going into the classroom and just giving them an opportunity to play with some tools, use a screw gun, use a hammer, and figure out what it feels like to work with their hands. Yeah, and it's funny because a lot of times you can see them kind of light up. So you see the ones that kind of naturally tend towards that profession. But it gives us an opportunity to talk to them about what a lucrative career construction can be for them, so they start to think in those terms early.
Yeah, absolutely. And in thinking about the community, you've talked about how you're placing graduates right here in the region, and so that's obviously giving back to our community directly, right?
Absolutely. So ACI is actually a company that their electricians, they'll be at Build Smart tomorrow at 11:30 doing interviews for people that want to go through our electrical program, but maybe don't have the funds to do it right now. So they actually help with that training.
Let's talk a little bit about that, because we do talk about in the feature how the program is really available to all, no matter what your background or your financial situation. Can you elaborate a little bit more on that for those who are worried about the cost or how to get through a program like this?
So there are multiple avenues that can help with funding. Virginia Career Works is one of those. They can apply. Build Smart Institute has a program as well that they can apply if they're 16 or 18 and older for that, which is called the Build You Scholarship. But a lot of times there are companies that are willing to pay for the training if you work for them. So that's just something you just need to ask them. If they realize that you're willing to take the step to further your skills so that you're going to be a more productive employee for them, they're willing
it's a win-win.
to. Absolutely.
Yeah,
it's a win-win
great.
for everybody.
That's fantastic.
What's that saying? What if we train them and then they go work somewhere else? Well, what if you don't train them?
And they stay.
What a wonderful
right.
point. Oh my gosh.
Right.
When you put it that way, it's hard to ignore. So you had mentioned in the article that this industry of construction has a pretty stable job market compared to the overall situation. I'm curious about what makes that so.
Well, like we said, there are other industries that ebb and flow. Construction is not going away. There's always going to be a need to build things, whether for our personal homes or for the businesses that we choose to work in. That's never changing. You're always going to need brick and mortar locations for things to take place. So there's always a need. And in a lot of cities, in Roanoke especially, there are a lot of aging properties. Well, there comes a point where they have to be renovated. You can't continue to work in them the way they are for safety reasons, for aesthetic reasons. So again, that just contributes to construction, and tradespeople are going to be needed.
It's a really excellent
forever.
point. You're not just thinking about your personal use, but commercial as well. And then especially for an older building. I mean, that's a pretty important role, especially if it's got some historical value to it or something like that. You have a lot of rules and things you have to think about when it comes to that. So it's really neat that you get to teach people how to learn those things.
That's right.
Very cool. And so in thinking about students going through the program, is there anything that maybe comes to mind that was surprising, or a certain challenge that they didn't? What do you walk into? What are they surprised by when they come into this program and think, good or bad, successes or challenges?
I think many of them, I'll say for the younger students, if their parents are pushing them to take the courses, I think they're surprised at how much they enjoy it. They're surprised at what kind of satisfaction you get, because you actually build things in our programs. You're not just, making a couple cuts with a saw. You're building something that at the end of it you can look at and know that you built it. Not only do you know you built it, you know the different components of it. You know the proper names of them. You know the tools that it took to do all of that.
It's a lot of pride in that. There's something tangible, right, that makes us feel like when we can see it and see what we've done. That's
Absolutely.
Really cool.
The other thing I find interesting is when all of a sudden they have a purpose, meaning they didn't know what they wanted to do with their life, and all of a sudden they have a very clear pathway. They know what they want to do, and they're asking, how do I get to where I want to be? That's fulfilling for us at Build Smart, to be able to help them know what the proper way is.
Definitely. I think how proud those parents are to see their kids who maybe were unsure about what to do, and now they feel like, I can't wait to do this.
That's right.
How exciting.
So we've got a really cool story. During COVID, there was a locality that gave a grant to Build Smart that allowed 30 students to come and take of the core fundamentals of construction. And what that does is introduce students to the fundamentals of framing, of drywall, of electrical, plumbing, paint, trim, just the basics. So there was a young man that was awarded one of those scholarships and came to Core Fundamentals. He was 14 years old. He was homeschooled. So he, his education background was a little different than if you attend a public school where you have a lot of interaction with people. So he said, I'll do this program because what else am I going to do? It's during COVID and I'm homeschooled, so let's go for it.
Sure.
At the end of that 90-hour course.
90 hours, oh my gosh.
It's a 90-hour, it's a full semester program. He decided that HVAC was the place for him. He actually got hired by a local HVAC company, has been there for 2 years as a full-time apprentice. He's being paid, and he is determined that he is going to start his own company someday.
Wow.
So not only did he kind of find fulfillment and purpose in that, we also kind of lit his entrepreneurial spirit. That's a future business owner, and I guarantee you he will do what he set out to do.
That's so cool. That's so great. But you're contributing to the community as a whole, of course, too, that way. Like, how wonderful. That's fantastic.
It's exciting.
That is very exciting. So, interested prospective students, where are they going? How can they learn more about this great program?
Our website. All of our upcoming courses are listed on there. Actually, every course that we offer is listed on there. You can either pick technical or professional development, and all of them are listed there. The description of them. That's the best place. But, Facebook page, if we have upcoming courses, we're usually blasted on there pretty quickly. Or they can come in and talk to us. We love to give tours. I meet with people personally frequently, give them a tour, explain our program, and see what they're interested in.
That's awesome. And so in thinking about what they should be prepared for when they come in, whether they have a goal in mind or don't, I think it's interesting that they're able to sort of test the waters and see, I'm really interested in HVAC compared to electric or whatever. Is there any advice that you might give to students who are curious about the program, not sure what they're walking into, but really want to know more?
Well, our core program is really where you start. So if you're just a new student, no construction experience, you want to take core. That gives you an introduction to framing, electrical, HVAC, plumbing. But there's also some soft skills in there, meaning you're going to learn construction math. It's really important to know that. You're going to learn employability. You're going to learn communication skills. We're trying to educate people as a whole. Yes, we want them to know construction and we want them to learn the skills, but there's a lot more that goes into being a construction professional as opposed to just someone that knows how to put some boards together.
And just so you know, Core Fundamentals is not just for high school students. We have adults. It ranges. We've had folks in their 60s that have taken this Core Fundamentals class. So it's every age in between.
Yeah, that was my next question. So let's talk about how you're helping the companies that are already existing. So when they come in, what do they learn or what are they doing to help build their own program through you guys?
We get a lot of professional development from other companies. The other thing that we offer that we didn't really talk to you yet about is that we do customized trainings. So if a company comes and says, we've got these 3 objectives that we want you to teach, we've got 5 or 6 guys, or we've got 10, 20 guys, however many, we want you to put a curriculum together to teach them all at the same time, same way.
That's cool.
We do that.
Yeah.
So it's been really interesting being able to work with different companies within the Roanoke Valley.
Yeah. Do you ever get to learn something new doing that too?
I'm not the one doing the training.
Well, in general.
Our lead instructor would tell you he's the best instructor in the world, so
of course he is.
He did that. But yes, well, we get to learn how to put things together in a new way.
Yeah.
And that's always fun. It's a new challenge. If you're in construction, you like challenges, you like to learn different ways to do it. So absolutely.
Sure.
And part of that customized training in construction, productivity is key. So it's always a struggle for business owners to take people away from production in order to train. And I understand that because from F&S Building's perspective, we struggle with the same thing. We've got customers on the other end that are expecting to get these jobs done, so we need them to be in the field working. However, we recognize that training can be invaluable in the long-term productivity of our company. So if folks need us to provide training for their folks, they can say, look, we only want you to have them 3 hours a day once every week for the next 3 weeks. We can tailor it to work for them. We don't necessarily set the schedule. You tell us what works, and we'll do what works for you, which is really important for business owners.
Yeah, that's because there's so many moving pieces. Like you said, you're helping clients and dealing with other businesses. There's a lot to go with that industry for sure. So before we go, I wanted to talk about technology, and not to put you on the spot, but I was curious about sort of evolving technology. What exists currently that maybe didn't exist 10 years ago that students will learn more about, even if they're not necessarily hands-on in that right now? But, for someone who doesn't know about that industry, teach me something new. What sort of technology are you looking at to help incorporate for new students?
So here's let me back that up a little bit. Part of technology is being able to get the job done correctly and more efficiently. A lot of times people's lack of training causes things to not be done effectively and efficiently. So starting with the basics and making sure that the hands-on part is trained properly, long-term contributes to being productive and being cost-effective.
Very important note.
Yeah. A lot of times we skip right over that. Let's get to the fun computers, and you lose the basics of how to get the work done properly.
The phone's not on yet.
And with the right quality.
Yeah.
However, to that, there are a ton of apps now, you mentioned, and it really depends on which avenue you're working in. Obviously, we're broad-based by trying to tackle from framing to plumbing to electrical. All of those different avenues have a ton of technology that's very specific to those. As you get into the more advanced stages of the training, those things were brought into play. But initially, we try to stick to the basics.
That sounds like a good plan.
Yeah.
But that's interesting because, in an age where we're all kind of talking about AI and ChatGPT and all these things, how are your students, employees, how are they, embracing these things? Because to work against them is not the plan, right? You have to be able to work with these things.
Right.
So I'm curious about how that sort of works in your industry.
Honestly, I think they find it refreshing sometimes to work with their hands because they are immersed constantly in a culture of everything's on your cell phone. You can't build a building with a cell phone. Is the bottom line.
Well, especially students, the younger generation.
Sure.
They've grown up with everything as technology. So they have no idea how to use a saw, but they could build all kinds of programs on the computer, but they have no idea how to actually sit there and build something tangible, real. So I think that's the biggest thing in the technology realm is that we are training the hands-on part. That's what we want you to learn right now. That may change as we get a little bit older and develop more courses.
The beauty of that, though, is if these students who are already technology savvy and then are able to learn how to build with their hands, they're going to be the best ones to be able to start writing those apps that are going to help the industry.
That's a great point.
And
Triple
training
threat.
Absolutely. Once they've got that knowledge, they're going to be able to take that and translate it into the technology world that's going to make it better for everybody.
It's really interesting that they can take what they're learning and, evolve it themselves. They're not just waiting on it to come to them. They're able to create the app or the program that they need to make their work better. So that's really cool.
Absolutely.
That's awesome. Is there anything else that we should learn about the program? And obviously we'll share out some information on our website about the website and Facebook page and everything. But just want to make sure we've kind of covered all our bases into letting people know about Build Smart Institute.
There's one more thing that I'll add, and it's not that we say it frequently, but I think it needs to be said. FNS has not placed anybody in FNS yet. Build Smart has only placed people in other companies. And we've done that purposely so that everyone understands that this is for the industry. We're not taking anybody and putting them in FNS. There may come a day that changes, but for right now, this is solely for the industry of the Roanoke Valley.
You're really serving the community as a whole.
That's correct.
That's really the goal.
Great. Well, thank you, ladies, so much for coming on the show today and teaching us more about the Build Smart Institute. What a great program. That's incredible. I love that it's for all ages, too, because obviously in thinking about the education issue, I'm coming off of middle school and higher ed and high school. But how exciting if I got into DIY and I wanted to learn more, I could learn more about how to do this right here in my backyard.
Come on out. We'd love to see you there.
So great. Well, I don't know about the holes in the wall. I might put more holes in the wall. But that's so cool. Thank you again. That was Alicia Smith and Michelle Ramaker of FNS Building Innovations and, of course, the Build Smart Institute. Thank you for being on From Print to Podcast today.
Thanks for having us.
Really appreciate your time. You can read more about the Build Smart Institute and the rest of our Fun Homes features, from home renovations and bathroom upgrades to displaying your kids' artwork and important tree care tips and more in our latest issue on newsstands now or at theroanoker.com.